Hello, 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 and welcome back to Apolitical, a podcast where we bring Atlanta's politics to you unfiltered. I am your host, Ms. Cameron T., and welcome back. I'm very excited for this week's episode because we have a very big guest joining us later. The 60th mayor of Atlanta herself, Mrs. Keisha Lance Bottoms. We're going to be talking to the mayor about a piece of legislation that she's hoping to get approved by City Council before her term officially ends in January. Now, this bill is all about the Atlanta City Jail. On October 18th, the mayor tweeted out, excited to send City Council legislation for approval of a joint diversion and services center with Fulton County at the Atlanta Jail. It will provide mental health services and support for low-level repeat offenders. Of course, we wanted to get you guys some more details on this plan the mayor has for the jail. So she's calling into Apolitical today to tell us all about it. So coming right up is our interview with the mayor herself, Mrs. Keisha Lance Bottoms. Stay tuned. Hey y'all, the holidays are coming up, and if you're anything like me, you are tired of those same old stale holiday cards, which is why I want to tell you guys about Neighborly Paper. Neighborly Paper is a Black-owned and woman-owned greeting card company based right here in Atlanta. They have the most stunning and hilarious cards on the market, but they also have cards for every single occasion, including birthdays, graduations, and holidays. And like I said, they are all different and unique. So if you are looking for something fresh and new on the market, make sure you check them out. Head over to neighborlypaper.com right now, stock up, and bring a smile to those special people in your life. All right, guys, let's get to our show. All right, so before we talk to Mayor Bottoms, we wanted to give you guys a little background on this legislation and what's been going on with the Atlanta jail. So joining us now is our resident political analyst, Dominique Diggs. Dominique, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell us what's going on with the Atlanta City Jail as of now.
Yeah, the Atlanta City Jail is one of the few city jails in all of Georgia, and the initial objective from its inception was to only house those charged with low-level offenses, not the violent crimes and felonies that would send people to typical county jails. So some of the most common charges that we would see for these inmates were driving with a suspended license, possession of an ounce of less of marijuana, or driving without a tag. So in 2018, Mayor Bottoms was able to ban cash bail, and she cut ties with ICE completely, which was able to drop the jail population dramatically. So the daily average intake now for this jail is about 25 to 30 inmates a day. And then also in 2019, Mayor Bottoms proposed the holds for a center for equity, which could offer everything from reentry services to childcare to workout and exercise rooms. Essentially, she wanted this center for equity to house many of the nonprofits who work on the ground to help underserved Atlantans who also live at or below the poverty line. So her goal from 2019 on was to close this jail and to replace it with this Center for Equity.
Okay. So you said the mayor announced that she was closing the jail in 2018. So that was 3 years ago now. Why hasn't she been able to close it?
Awesome question. So Mayor Bottoms was able to actually put together a planning task force in 2019 for the proposed Center for Equity. They were able to hold 5 meetings and scheduled a 6th and final one for March 2020. And unfortunately, it never happened. By that point, the city was dealing with something much bigger, which was the COVID-19 pandemic. And so unfortunately, many lawmakers in Atlanta believe that now the pandemic has set off a crime spike in Atlanta that has been the catalyst catalyst for a new line of thinking when it comes to criminal justice reform. More recently, we're seeing so many lawmakers, especially the council members in Buckhead, who are really pushing for more jails to hold inmates due to the spike in violent crime. So there are a lot of news reports happening on street racing and gunshots at major malls like Lenox. And so voices from the city's affluent neighborhoods are ringing out saying that we need people to be in jails, incarcerated. And so we're not wanting to close this jail if we don't know where some of these folks are going to be able to actually go. So right now we're seeing overcrowding at the Fulton County Jail. So a lot of council members are thinking that we should rent the city jail to Fulton County. And Fulton County Sheriff Patrick Labat is requesting right now is that Mayor Bottoms temporarily lease 500 beds to Fulton County. But Mayor Bottoms declined because she does not feel like immediate jailing and inmates being housed without the opportunity to bail out is the answer to Atlanta's crime issue.
Okay. So can you tell us about this new piece of legislation from the mayor? What have you been able to learn about it?
Yeah, so the new legislation that Mayor Bottoms is now putting forward is the creation for a Center for Diversion and Services that would be able to aid the desire of the city and the county to transition away from legal system responses that utilize jails or arrests for concerns that are related directly to homelessness and mental health, substance abuse, and poverty. So this center would be created through a memorandum of understanding between the city, Fulton County, Grady, and the PAD, which is a pretrial diversion organization. So the city of Atlanta would commit $3 million in capital costs and $2.5 million in operating costs. And then the county would also pay $2.5 million towards operating costs to meet in the middle. I think the main piece of opposition that Mayor Bottoms is facing is this pretrial diversion center for equity is really mainly addressing the nonviolent offenders who are suffering from drug abuse, homelessness, or just poverty and quality of life offenses. And so what you're hearing from council members is that we are experiencing the worst crime wave in about 2 decades, Council Member Howard Shook said. And so the question is not being answered around what are we going to do about these violent offenders who are actually harming by shooting, by killing, by stealing cars. You know, what are we actually doing to address those violent offenders? Where are they going to go? Because they need to be put on trial and held accountable for their offenses. Councilmember Cleta Winslow would agree with this because she thinks that what Atlanta should not do is send a message to the broader country that we are not a law and order city. So they are actually going to be voting on this on Monday, November 1st.
Well, thank you so very much for joining us today. I know our viewers appreciate all this great info.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
So obviously, there are varying opinions amongst city leaders about how we should be making use of the Atlanta jail going forward. Here's what mayoral candidate Kasim Reed had to say about it at a recent forum.
We'll keep the jail open. It should not be closed, and we should not have announced that it was closing in the middle of a global pandemic and a surge in crime. Atlanta has about 500 to 600 repeat offenders. These aren't people who made mistakes or tripped up. These are people who have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 felony convictions. Those individuals have made a decision to live a life of crime. We need the capability when they commit crime to remove them from our community and try to find them help. I also think that we should be partnering with Sheriff Pat Labat and cooperating to give additional bed space to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office.
City Councilman Antonio Brown disagreed. This is what he had to say at that same forum.
I do support closing the jail. We should be able, even through closing the jail, find a place of compromise with Fulton County, with some of our neighboring partners, to be able to create a center for equity and wellness. I truly believe that. Why? Because my mom was incarcerated when I was 12 years old. And she came out of the criminal justice system. And what happened? There were no resources and opportunities for her. So she committed recidivism. She found herself in a cycle of recidivism where she was continuously in and out of prison. We can use ACDC to be a place where folks from Fulton County that have committed low-level offenses can be matriculated through ACDC and be able to readapt back into society. There's ways to house the unsheltered population within ACDC. Why can't we use ACDC in an equitable way while still supporting Fulton County and being able to take care of the city of Atlanta?
So where does this leave us now? In limbo? But the mayor is hoping her new proposal will be the perfect compromise. Joining us now is Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. Mayor Bottoms, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you and congratulations. And thank you for all that you are doing and making sure that people continue to be informed.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of being informed, you made a very big announcement last week that you're sending new legislation over to City Council to be approved for a joint venture between Atlanta City Jail and Fulton County. Can you give us a little bit of detail on what we can expect from this piece of legislation and also why you say it is an important step towards criminal justice reform?
So this is legislation that helps us create a joint diversion center. And I know you know this, but for the sake of your listeners, we hope to have completely closed our Atlanta detention center. When I ended our relationship with ICE, that reduced our jail population. And also when I eliminated cash bail bonds in the city of Atlanta. And we were not housing violent criminals, not people charged with felonies or robbing people or shooting people, et cetera. These are low-level offenders who are charged with what we describe as quality of life offenses. And many times these offenses are born out of people experiencing homelessness or mental illness, any number of life issues that sometimes happen to people throughout our communities. And so we had hoped to completely close the jail and have a fully operating and functioning service center where people could come in, get access to GED classes, job training, housing, etc. But because we have run into some political delays with City Council, our compromise has been on this diversion center, which gets us one step closer. So when someone in the city of Atlanta is arrested for a quality of life offense, they won't be taken to jail. They won't be taken to the Fulton County Jail. They'll be taken into this diversion center where they can be assessed and they can be provided with the resources that they need to help address some of the challenges that are leading them to commit crimes.
Right. What would be some of the biggest differences between this diversion center and the city jail as it is now?
Well, right now, if someone is locked up in the city jail, they aren't provided those same services. It's about charging them with a criminal offense, a city ordinance offense, whatever their sentence may be or fine may be, and that's that. It's about adjudicating crimes. But this goes a lot deeper to help address some of the systemic challenges that we often speak about that lead people to commit crimes. So if we have someone who's in a revolving door in our jail, that they're constantly there because they are committing petty crimes, then we want to get to the root cause of why they are committing these crimes. Are they facing mental illness challenges? Do they need support services? Do they need housing? Do they need substance abuse services, or whatever the case may be? So it helps us address some of these root cause issues and helps us break this cycle of crime.
Now, as you know, the Fulton County Jail has been voicing complaints about their overcrowding issues for years. Would inmates who are currently in Fulton County be able to transfer into the diversion center, or is it solely for newly arrested individuals?
This will be only for newly arrested individuals. We are prepared to service between roughly 40 to 50 people, maybe even more. And the idea would be, once we get it up and running, to try and scale it even larger. So it won't necessarily, we won't transfer inmates out of Fulton County. But again, if someone's charged with one of these quality of life offenses, if they were to go to the Fulton County Jail, instead of going into that jail, they can come into this diversion center and be assessed.
Got it. And just for clarity, you're using the term quality of life offenses. So what kind of offenses have you found that those usually are?
Maybe someone who's charged with, say, criminal trespassing because they're sleeping on the sidewalk, or maybe someone who's urinated in public because they're homeless and they don't have a bathroom to go into. Those are the type of offenses that we are looking to address and provide services for.
Gotcha. I love it. Okay, Ms. Keisha, last question. As discussed, you announced your intentions to close the jail back in 2018. You were able to decarcerate the jail from hundreds of inmates to now just a few dozens a night. But what do you say to critics who may say that by opening this center for diversion, you're going back on your promises made in 2018?
Well, if it were my choice, the jail would be closed. If it were my choice and my choice alone. And reality is that prior to the uptick in crime that we have experienced in the aftermath of COVID and the murder of George Floyd and some of the other challenges we've seen across the country, there really was a groundswell of support towards more alternative methods of addressing public safety in our communities. But the reality is that in the aftermath of all we've experienced over the last year and a half, we don't have that same support, unfortunately. So we have to get the wins where we can get the wins. This process of closing the jail is just that, a process. I would have to have the support of the Atlanta City Council, and just in the same way the president has to sometimes have the support of Congress, and you then have to compromise when you can't get the number of votes that you need. It's the same way we've had to compromise, but I want to take the win where we can take the win. And even if the jail is not fully closed and transformed under my term as mayor, it's my hope that whomever has the privilege of serving as mayor will continue this work to addressing these systemic challenges. And I truly believe that this is the most important work that any mayor will have to undertake. And I hope that whomever it is will take it seriously and put it at the top of their agenda.
I sure hope so too. Well, Mayor Bottoms, I personally thank you so much for being Atlanta's mayor, and I sincerely appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.